Hello and welcome to episode 7, lucky number 7, episode 7 of Adventures in Happiness. My name is Vanessa Kinsey, and this is my show where I introduce you to people who are taking radical responsibility for their own happiness. And I am so excited to introduce you to the guest that I have here with us today. She is such an incredible person, and I just have to say, well, let me warn you, first of all, let me read to you the post that she put up this morning about us and our relationship and what we're going to be doing here today. Because I just want to give you guys a little, warning, I guess, maybe not warning, but just to let you know what might happen here today. So I have to read it because I will get it wrong if I don't. And now I got to find it. I had it up. Hold on just a second. Let me read it because it was so beautiful what she wrote. So she said, who knows where this conversation or this interview is going to go, because our conversations usually include a lot of laughter. We laugh a lot. We have we have the same sense of humor, so we laugh a lot. That's great. But we also, we have good insights together. We've been through a lot of personal growth together, and we also have cried a lot together. And I'm going to try and keep it together because I'm like an ugly crier. I need to practice that. But this person is someone who lives inside of my heart. She is someone that I am so lucky that I have gotten to know her, that she crossed my path. She's one of those people, if you have people in your life that you have met and that you are changed because of them, she is one of those people for me. She's probably really one of the first people significantly that made such a huge impact on me from knowing her. So I want to bring her on here and let you meet her and introduce you to her, because she is a person who has been through so much in her life. She has every excuse, like she has every single thing, like every real thing that could happen to a person, everything that she could use as an excuse to have a miserable life and existence. And instead, she has a beautiful life and just so full of love and laughter and so many great things. And she has so many great, it's so inspiring. Her story is so inspiring. So I'm going to bring her on. Here is Rachel Kohl, someone that I am lucky enough to call one of my very best friends. So grateful that she agreed to do this with me today. I've been waiting a long time to do this with her. I'm going to finally get to ask her some questions that I've never asked her before. And so let me bring her on so we can get started. Here she comes.
Hello.
Hey, we did it. We did it.
Wait, don't make me cry before we even get started.
I know. We should have practiced our ugly cry. Come on, right? That would have been.
So happy to be here. Thank you, Vanessa.
No, you're okay. So, because there are people on here watching with us, and I will just say to those people who are on, I can't see you. I don't know who's here watching with us. I can't see you unless you tell me, you say hi to me. And I do have one of my oldest friends saying hello to me. There's a couple people here, and I just want to, I'll throw a shout out to them. We have 5 people watching live with us right now. I don't know who they are. I only know 2 of them. But like I said yesterday, and anytime I do these, if you guys say hello to me, and then we can say hello back to you. We've got Camille here, Camille I interviewed yesterday. She said hello. I have got Pat coming all the way. Pat, you can't see these when I put them up, but we have a lot of people here. One of my oldest friends, Donna, finally getting to watch me live. Thank you for showing up on a Sunday here with us today. We've got a lot of love in the house. It looks like my friend Vanessa Keller is here. We've been friends since kindergarten. She's the only other person that I ever knew whose name is also Vanessa. So as we go, oh, Rachel, you have someone here. Auntie Rach, Ellie's in the house. You can't see.
Oh,
Ellie McCann is here saying hello to you.
My daughter from another mother.
Oh, that's so cool. Okay. So I got to just get my frame set here right. All right. And my auntie's here. She always joins my aunt. My aunt, gotta say, she always says hello, Ness. So there's a lot of love. We're being surrounded by a lot of love here today. And so I want to get into this because I have a lot to talk to you about. I have a lot to ask you. And
I just want to say this is my first live interview, and I'm very distracted just in general. But there's lots of things on the computer screen, like I can see people like coming in, and so I will do my best. But if I look like my eyes are wandering, it's because I'm getting distracted by the screen.
Well, I understand that. That's natural. I didn't know what you could see on your end. And so like, we're just like, this doesn't have to be perfect. I tell this to everybody. I don't want this to be perfect. Really, I really am such a person who, authenticity is very important to me. And, we just are going to act like we're having a chat in a coffee shop. And I really do appreciate people who have never done a live video before agree to come on here and do this with me, because even at this point, I've done a lot of videos and I still get really nervous doing it. And I myself have never been interviewed. And to me, that is really, really scary. So I appreciate you, facing your fears, which is like totally exactly the kind of person you are, and coming on here and doing this. So let's get started talking about you. And I guess where I would start is basically where I met you. So we've known each other for 13 years, and we met when our kids went to daycare together. And it's really funny because before I actually really knew you, I had all these preconceived notions about you, because I would drive by your house in the morning on the way to daycare, and this is exactly what I would say. You guys like had a beautiful house, and you had a big motorhome in your driveway, and I could tell you had this like big, gigantic like swing set in your backyard, and I would say, wow, her husband must do something really amazing, because look at all the money that they have. That's really what I thought. And then I got to know you. And then let's hear what's really going on actually when I got to meet you, because that was, that's the funny thing about when you judge someone.
Right.
Right. So tell me what was really going on at that point, because that's when I met you 15 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to hear that. I mean, at that point in my life, I was a workaholic in the mortgage industry, and Dylan was, how old was he? 2?
Yeah, he was a baby. Yeah, he was a baby.
Yeah. And I was missing out on a big part of his life. I would take him to daycare after he woke up in the morning. I would work all day, and sometimes I wouldn't get home until he was asleep in his crib. And I would come home and go in his bedroom and just watch him in his crib. And just, I was going through the motions, not even giving it much thought. I look back on that now and think, wow, I missed out on a lot. And I think part of our first interactions with each other was me racing in and out of daycare and not using eye contact and not giving anybody the time of day. Like, I was just in my workaholic mode. And like I said, looking back, missed out on so much of what was going on in life. And
I remember, like, we'd cross in the daycare kitchen, and I'm a person who I like talk to everybody, and I say good morning and hello. And I mean, and the reason why I identify with your story, first of all, which was really funny when I actually heard it. We're getting some feedback on your side. I don't know can you hear that?
Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah.
I'm not sure what that's like, what's causing that, but anyway, probably because I'm tall. But anyway, no, I like, we were so similar in the fact that I've always been a workaholic, and you wouldn't even look at me. And I guess when I'm thinking back on it now, it's like, God, how did we even how did I even talk to you? Because like, it was like, you just like shot by me like, every single day. Do you even remember like the first conversation that we had together?
It was in the driveway at the daycare.
Really?
Yeah, I remember.
You do? Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny to think back to that because I mean, so much is different in both of our lives. And I really didn't even think about it on my end until you brought that up. That, you know, you said that last night, like, wow, I've been through a lot too. So at the point that I met you is the point where you really started making some major changes. Your email address, which I love about you that you never changed, is healthy changes, and that was the point. And there were some things on your end leading up to that that I want to talk about, what you were going through, the challenges that you had at that point that you still live with. It's such a huge part of you. I want to talk about that, um, and what you started doing then, because 13 years ago. So let's hear it, baby.
What I was doing 13 years ago?
Well, just like your diagnosis, what had happened to you at that point, right? Because that was right before that.
Oh, I guess that was right. Wow, I guess that was right at that point. So, yeah, so I was a workaholic. Yes, I was married. You know, was it the marriage that I had dreamt of? No. Um, did I marry a nice man that was a good father and providing for our family? Yes. Um, but I was definitely just going through the motions in life. I was doing my job. I was making my money. I was married. I had a nice house. I had the trailer in the driveway. Yes, all of that. But right around that time, I woke up one morning and my hands were completely swollen and I couldn't even change Dylan's diaper. And I remember calling Tom and being like, I do not know what's going on with me. And very quickly from that moment forward, I continued to get symptoms, joint pain, my knees. It would be like my knees one day, and then it would be my shoulders, and then it would be my toe, and it was just constantly changing. And I remember one day, Tom came home, and I was just crying in bed, and I'm like, I think I'm like dying of cancer or something. I do not know what the heck is going on with me. I mean, my life literally changed overnight. And it got so bad that there were mornings that Corinne, and how old was Corinne then? I'm so bad with. She was like
13,
not even that. And she would do my makeup, do my hair, like help me get dressed. I mean, she was such a huge support to me that time, which now kind of breaks my heart. And I know that has impacted kind of who she is as a young adult. Because I can't imagine like being her at that time and seeing her mom in that kind of place. So so that's where I was at that point. And it, luckily I really advocated for myself and I got diagnosed with lupus pretty quickly. A lot of people don't. Because it's a hard diagnosis to get. And the symptoms are so weird. And I mean, you really do have to change a lot and you really do have to advocate for yourself. But I was really, really sick. But I'll tell you, I didn't stop. I did not stop. I got out of bed every day. I continued working in the mortgage industry. I mean, thank God for my friends. I mean, I remember I worked in kind of a big warehouse type with all the cubicles and it was a long walk to the bathroom. And I remember I would sit at my desk and just be like, okay, you just got to do it. You just got to get up. You just got to go. And it was just like such a challenge. It was a challenge to get dressed. It was a challenge to take a shower. Even just planning, because I never knew what life was going to bring me each day. Mm-hmm. So I would have plans to go to a friend's house to barbecue. And then I'd be like, I don't know if I can do this. And I remember one time showing up at my good friend Diane's house, the Walkers, and they were having a party, and I just came in there, and the minute I saw Diana Gregg, I just started bawling, and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. But I did. I continued on, and I got up and I did it, and I went to my doctor's appointments, and I said, you guys got to figure this out. Like, I can't live like this, and my kids need me, and, you know, I got to have a good quality life, you know? So, I don't want to make this too long. Long story short, I ended up going to UCLA, and they diagnosed me there, because I finally said to my doctor, like, I'm not going to keep doing this. Like, I need to get to a specialist. I need to get someone. We need to figure this out. And so they sent me to UCLA, and they diagnosed me that day. My sister Julie was there, and Tom, and I remember, on a side note, the doctor came in and he said, and I knew nothing about lupus. And the first thing he said to me is, I just want you to know this isn't a death sentence. And I'm thinking, like, why? Like, anyway, then he said, you know, you have lupus. But it's funny, because that's what I remember as when I first got diagnosed. Like, those are the words that I remember.
How long was that between the points? I think that's really incredible that you know, woke up one morning, and this is the thing that makes me crazy about, you know, just people taking their health for granted, because I've also had this illness like that, as serious as yours, but I have had illness before. I had a dream, I had it twice, and you know, it's like, you don't realize how fragile your health is if you don't have it. And I think I ever knew, woke up one morning and you all of a sudden had these symptoms. And so how long was it between the time that you had like that happened and your diagnosis? Do you remember like the time?
I don't remember the exact time, but under a year.
Under a year. Okay.
Yeah.
Because you know, knowing you and knowing the kind of person that you are, and I've only known you when you've had your diagnosis of having lupus, but you're a person, like, you get it done. You got a lot on your plate. You handle it all. You always have. I mean, we used to travel together. In fact, we were sick at the same time. So I remember traveling with you, and we would be with a group of people, and you and I would be having actually the time of our life. I'm thinking of it now. Ordering room service and being in the hotel, because we just did not have the energy to be able to walk around and do what other people were doing. And I think another frustrating part of having an illness like this is, you know, from the outside, there doesn't look like there's anything wrong with you. You know, there doesn't appear to be anything wrong with you. And that compounds having an illness that doesn't have physical symptoms that people can see or even relate or identify with, if they don't have, unless you've had something like that. That can be very frustrating, because you're like, no, I really don't feel good. Like, I'm not making this up. And you want nothing more than to be able to do what everyone else is doing. It's so very frustrating.
It is.
You've always handled that. Like, again, that's a huge thing. And when I want to come back to this too, because when we kind of wrap up at the end, because this is something that you still, one of the things that we have in common, the things that we have to do is we have to be taking, both of us, really, really good care of ourselves. I think that that's like our top priority for both of us. And I want to talk about those things that you do, the changes that you've made in your life as far as that goes, because you many times have inspired me when I've fallen off the wagon. We talk about that a lot. Or actually, the more that we've gone on and done this, we've gotten so much better at staying on track for a lot longer period of time. But, you know, it used to be we'd be good and following our diets and working out for, 5 minutes, and then we'd fall off and crash and be miserable. But before we go any further, I really want to talk about the thing that I think was so significant that happened to you when you were a little girl. And it's something that, I didn't even know about you. And it's one of those things that if it happened to me, I would have used it, like went around and been banging my tambourine and telling everyone that this thing happened to me. And you're not that kind of person. I've always admired that about you, that you just don't use that and tell people. So will you take us back to what happened to you when you were little?
Yeah. So when I was 7, but I was well, so when I was 7, my mom got killed by a drunk driver on her bicycle on July 3rd. I turned 8 on July 6th. So basically I was 8. So yeah, so she was hit. She was on her bicycle riding her bike to the beach and got hit by a drunk driver and died in the ambulance on the way to the hospital.
You know, and I just think it's those kind of, that's just like such a significant thing in your life that you have never used as your excuse. And you have so many things that have happened that you have never used as your excuse to be sad or miserable. And I think that is so admirable, because one of the things that drives me so crazy about people, or, I hear, well, I can't because of this, or my life is miserable because of the president or the weather or my parents or my husband, or any of these things that they could use as an excuse, or they do use as an excuse. And it's like, no, there are people that have had really, really major significant things happen to you like 2 days before your birthday, and that really changed you on a deep level, but not. I feel like you must have done something at that point to harness that within yourself, right? To have that something so major happen. Like, how did that change? How do you think that maybe changed you for the bet? Like, what did you? Yeah,
I know. You know what's crazy about that is, I think, as funny as that might sound, I am a better person because of it. And there's two pieces to this. I think one being because I was so young. I think I really didn't know any better, right? So as I'm growing up, I didn't really know any better. Whereas if it happened when I was a teenager, it would have probably looked a lot different. From the moment she passed, that became my journey of becoming a caretaker. And that's kind of was my new identity. And that was my new journey in life, and still is such a huge part of me. But I can always remember just looking for the positive in it. Like, yes, it sucks, but you know what? You can't change it. You can't, there's no changing it. So let's move forward and think of what we can do to learn from it and grow from it. And, things that I can think of is just always saying how I feel. Like, some people like that, some people don't. But you know what? If I was to die tomorrow, no regrets, because I say exactly how I feel. And that's one great lesson. Also, I believe 100% that my mom has sent me angels, people in my life to teach me the lessons that she wanted me to have. And you know what the positive part to that is? Learning those lessons from someone other than your mom. You get them. You take them, you grow with them, you embrace them. If my mom was trying to teach me those lessons, yeah, that probably wouldn't have happened so easy. So I have been like beyond blessed. Like, sometimes I just can't even believe the amazing people that are in my life and that have been brought to my life. And even, I don't want to get off, but even coming to Bend, I know my sister Julie's biggest concern was, because she knows how important my friendships are. It's like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get her peeps? And moved here. And again, I am surrounded by the most amazing, strong, beautiful people that continually teach me lessons and help me grow and let me be me. And I give a lot of that credit to my mom. I really believe she has sent these people. And so I do feel like maybe I am a better person than I would have been if she hadn't gotten killed.
Yeah.
I know that sounds crazy. I know, but so that's kind of how I've gone through. I've just gone through life with that attitude and just kind of tried to embrace the people around me. And I've become friends with people that fill up those different parts of me that I need filled and provide me the things that I need that I was missing because I didn't have a mom there for me. Now, do I miss my mom? Hell yes. You know, are there days that I'm just like, I just want to talk to my mom. I just want my mom's advice. Yes, absolutely. It sucks.
I know that. I know that first. I know that. I have a presence in my life. It's crazy. And you know, the thing is there's that part of it, and then you bring in this other part with your friends and where you are in Bend. And I want to get to that because if everything you've told us isn't even enough at this point, and by the way, I'm so jealous of all of the people in Bend that get to have you. You know, when you first moved there, I couldn't even look at your, like, the pictures you'd put up, and you'd have a new friend, and I'd be like, they get to have Rachel. I'd be all annoyed. I'd be like, oh, I have to hide this. I can't, like, I was just so like, that's my Rachel, and you get to have her. But you know, so I want to go back to like how you even got to Bend, because I know every, like, before, leading up to you going to Bend, and I remember that about the time of, you know, here you are, whatever age you were at that point, maybe, I don't know, how old were you, like 40, 30 something, you tell us. But anyway,
yeah.
There was some things that made you, like, that you, more things that happened in your life. And, you know, you could just line those up of the things that happened and why you actually had to leave California and why you had to move up to Bend.
Okay, so I'll try to keep this. There's a lot, right? There's a lot. So I'll try to keep it.
Yeah, there's a lot.
And feel free to chime in if I'm missing something. But basically, had this house that Vanessa described in the beginning of the interview, and the economy crashed. Tom, my husband at the time, was in construction. That was done. We ended up foreclosing on our house. We ended up renting a house in Orange with his parents' help, which was wonderful. Tom had only pumped concrete his whole life, so he didn't have a lot to go on. And because he is the wonderful man that he is and provider, he saw an advertisement for long haul truck driving. We'll train you if you stay with us for 8 months. He started long haul truck driving. He was home maybe a few days a month. And we were getting help from his parents each month. And my sister lived in Bend, and I would fly to see her. And I remember this one time, and this was before I even knew I was going to move to Bend. I was flying into Bend, and I was just like, I'm flying home. Like, I'm flying home. Like, I just got this feeling just overwhelming in me. And so at one point I said to Tom, you know what? Like, you're never home. Does it matter where we live? Like, does it really matter? Because I want to move. I want to move to Bend. At that time, this is a whole other conversation. My grandma, my mom's mom, so she now is really struggling health-wise and living in assisted living. And I'm really her only person. My sister Jennifer, living in New York. My sister Julie living in Bend. Very taking care of my grandma, working full time, having lupus, being basically a single mom. The hardest time in my life. I mean, my grandma passed and I was her caretaker. I was not her granddaughter. Yeah. So that was just a really, really hard time in my life. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to do this anymore. I don't feel good in Orange County. I don't want to keep up with the Joneses. It just isn't feeling right to me. And again, luckily for Tom, being the person that he is, he's like, okay, let's do it. My grandma was very sick at the time. Mm-hmm. And I just told my sisters, I'm like, I can't keep waiting for grandma to pass. That's what's keeping me in Orange. I can't keep doing this. Can we move her? So sure enough, we moved. Julie and I moved her to Bend. And again, I mean, wow, that was tough. And we put her in a home, and she died very quickly in Bend.
Well, at that point, because I was in your life when this was going on, and I was watching all of this happen to you, and we have a very similar story with that. My grandma, was a very important part of my life, my grandma Betty. And so I could really identify. I had taken care of her when she was very sick for many years. And I was her, I was her person and I was responsible for her. So I could really identify, at the time with what you were going through. And, I knew how hard it was. And I remember that you moved her up there because you were trying to coordinate so many things. And I mean, when you talk about it right now, even though it sounds like a lot, it was even more. I mean, your world was really crumbling and I was watching it happen. You guys had basically lost everything. You lost everything. And then on top of it, you had this major stressor dealing with your grandma and trying to coordinate getting her moved. So, because I remember you moved her up to Bend and you weren't even living up there yet because you were still trying to coordinate her move and all of that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And, so then that happened. And then you were like, it's a big move to move from California to Bend. You guys, so talk a little bit about that, because when you get to Bend, that's when things like, that was like the best thing that you could have done, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a crazy time, because you're right. We moved my grandma to Bend so then I could go back and move myself. But my grandma was a fighter. So I was staying in Bend waiting for her to pass, but she went without food and water or anything for like almost 2 weeks, I think. So she passed and then I went back. And as I'm moving, I'm getting her ashes delivered to me as I'm packing the house, and we have her funeral. And then, off we went. And we got to Bend actually on my birthday, July 6th of 2010. We moved into the place that my sister Julie had found for me. And that was such a life-changing moment for me. I was still very sick. I had been on prednisone for really since the time I got diagnosed. So I was overweight. I was.
You have that picture. You actually sent me a picture, but I couldn't get it to work today so I could share it here. But can you share the picture of what you look like the day that you moved to Bend?
This was actually, yes, the day I moved to Bend with my sister Julie. Let me see if I can do this. Oh, as I'm getting so there I am, sick as can be. And so at that point, I said, my grandma had passed. We had inherited some money. And I said, I am not going to live like this anymore. Lupus is not going to define me. I'm better than this. I can get better. So I said, I'm going to take the time and I'm not going to get a job and I'm going to go off prednisone. And I don't care. Like, I'm not going to stay on this steroid anymore. I found a great doctor here, which was nice and supported that. And so I did. And it was really, really hard, but it was great because I wasn't working. So if I had to stay in bed all day, I could. At that same time frame, a friend of mine, Maya, a high school friend, had reached out to me. Her son, high schooler, had an autoimmune disease that was like making him not even be able to function through life. And she did a lot of research, and she said, I think you should try the paleo diet. And so, excuse me. So at that time, I just made some major changes because I was able to slow down and stop my life and not work and figure out what was best for me instead of taking care of the world. And that's really so again, my grandma's inheritance to me gave me the opportunity to do that, which was such a gift. And so that's really kind of where it all started. And that's where I made changes. I got healthier. I ended up getting an amazing job.
Wait. Okay. I want to talk about that because I think I probably even said this to you. And I knew I said this at the time when you left, because was not raised in Orange County. And I know what it's like to not live here. And I had said to you before you even left that, and I say this to anybody that is, and you didn't have fear, you knew it was time for you to leave. But I always say, once you move away from here, and I say this to my husband too, because he's been raised here. I said, if you ever moved away from here, you would not be able to come back. The pace of life and the way that it is, the way that life is here, I feel like I try to work my way around that, and I try to not participate in any of that as much as possible. But even still, there's a vibe, there's a very fast pace to the energy that's down here. And I just knew, like, if I think back to you, like, I was so glad that you were leaving. I knew that was going to be the best thing for you. And just like I have had many thoughts, and I've probably said that to you, like, can you even imagine what would have happened if you stayed here? I mean, that goes along with living in Orange County, is the cost of living is very high here. Not that it's not in Bend, because it is too, but there's just a difference. There's a huge difference about it. And, so I love the story about talking about when you went to Bend, about your job. Tell us about that, about how you ended up there, because it's a very beautiful unfolding of how things have happened for you since you've been there.
Right. Okay. So I started to feel better. I was spending the money and thinking, okay, you need to get it together. You need to get a job. And so I decided to take a course at the community college, it was called Community Health Worker. And I'm like, oh, that would fit me. It's kind of you are placed in physicians' offices, and you find resources for families that come in there and have needs. So I took this course, and during this course, you had to go out and look into different organizations, nonprofits, different organizations in the community. So when you had that position, you were familiar with the community and what resources were out there. So I ended up going on a tour at Kid Center, which is a child abuse intervention center. And I did the tour, and I walked out of that building and I said to myself, I am going to work there. I'm going to work there. Left, finished, my course, still wasn't really looking for a job, just thinking like, okay, you need to get a job. And I looked on Craigslist one day, and there was an ad for Kid Center receptionist. And I called, and they were closing that. I think that there was like one day left. And now I know that they had already kind of decided, they had already kind of hired someone in their minds. But luckily, they brought me in for an interview, and I got the job. And I've been here for 7 years. And I started as a receptionist, and now I do family support, which is just what comes naturally to me, which is so, and the great thing is I've been so lucky. I never, having Corinne at age, I got pregnant with her when I was 20 and had her when I was 21. And I went to massage school, and that wasn't really a great fit for me. And I always talked about going back to school and never did. So I've always been very insecure about not having a degree, not having schooling, but things have always worked out for me. And this job was such a natural fit. And there was definitely talk when I interviewed for the family support position that I didn't have a degree, and is that okay? And I had so many people here at Kid Center that fought for me and believed in me and said, how can you argue with someone who just naturally has that? Like, a degree has nothing to do with that, So here I am doing a job that's very difficult sometimes. And when life gets rough, it even makes it, more rough to do my job. But it's a wonderful job, and it's an honor to work with these families that come here and are in the situations they're in.
I want you to tell us a little bit about exactly what Kid Center does, because I think it goes to show about what a special place Bend is. I don't think that there's any kind of service or facility like this in Orange County. If there is, I've never heard of it. Tell us a little bit about what you actually do, because it's such a great need, and it is definitely something. You are so good with people. You're so good with kids. My boys love you so much. And so tell us about your job.
So the Kid Center, it's called a Child Advocacy Center, and they have them nationwide. And so if you were just curious and you wanted to Google, you would just Google Child Advocacy Center to see if there was one in any area. And so basically what we do is we get referrals from law enforcement, child welfare, or doctors if they feel like there's abuse, whether it's neglect, whether it's sexual, whether it's physical, whether it's domestic violence, just witnessing domestic violence or drug endangerment. We'll get a referral, and then we have them come in here, and they come in for a medical exam and a forensic interview. And with that, they get a family support advocate, which is what I do. A family support specialist is what we call it. And so they come here, and they're here sometimes for 3 hours. So they show up for their evaluation, and I get to be the first one to greet them and just kind of make sure they're doing okay, kind of see where they're at. And then I can come down to the team that's going to be working with them and let them know kind of where they're at. So we can just really support them. Everybody handles trauma differently, so it can look so different, and you just have to meet them where they're at. And then I go through the process with them. Then I sit down with them and offer them resources, whether it's clothing, help with housing, jobs, whatever's kind of going on. Try to remove stressors that they're having so they can really focus on their child and the situation that's going on. With that, there's also therapists that we have here that meet with them. And then I luckily get to follow up with them after they leave here. So that's the great part of my job. Like, the interviewers have to hear these horrific stories and then kind of write the report and give it to the parties involved, and then their job's kind of done. The examiners have to examine them and go through that, and then their job's kind of done. The great thing with family support is we get to follow that family, and we get to support them, and it's their choice, though. Like, if they don't want to, then we don't. And some families we only follow a few months, some families over a year. Some of them we go to court with, some of them, we support them in all different ways, but we're just there to be there for them. So you, as my friend, know, like, that's my thing. It's no wonder I love my job. Is it difficult? Yes. Sometimes I think I can't, just when you think you've heard the most horrific story, like, another one comes in, and I've learned through this, like, if there's a 15-year-old boy coming in, it's not always probably the best for me to take on that case. So I'll ask my coworker, can you do this one? Because some hit home more than others, of course. But it really is, it's a gift to have the job, and it's an honor to help these families. And I just, again, like, sometimes I think, like, gosh, how did this job happen? Like, how did I get this job? It's amazing. And I work with the most amazing people. And that's huge, right? To work with people that you love and adore and care for and support you. And, like, that's a gift in itself as well.
That's so neat. And I think about those families and how lucky that they are to have you, because I know how giving of a person you are. And I know, if you're in your presence and you meet, and are lucky enough to be in your life, you can feel the energy that that just naturally comes from you, this energy, this very calming, loving energy that comes from you. And, I think, with your job, I don't know, like I do we don't do many custody cases in my line of work anymore, but I know that when we do, or when I have in the past, I have like a rule, like, don't show me a picture of your kids, don't bring them in here, because once it becomes personal to me, then I lose sleep over it at night. I really have to be more like an ambulance driver in my job. Like, I have to be able to have a shield up between my heart and what's going on. Otherwise, I get too personally invested. So I really understand. And I think it's so admirable what you go through, that you can actually, be right there physically with people. It's just physical. It's very taxing emotionally to be able to do that. And I think it's such a huge gift that you are able to do that and be there for people. And, with that, I am so grateful for you finding that job landing in your lap. I remember when all of that was happening. I forgot when you had went to school about that whole going to doctor's offices. I remember you talking about that, but that was like a blip on the radar, because then kids center dropped in your life, and that has just been such a great foundation of you up there. And then what's so funny, just like what Julie was so concerned about when you moved up there, was that you weren't going to have any friends, and you go up there and like immediately just have such a great community of people in your life.
Yes.
Just so many friends. And Bend is a really magical place. It's one of my favorite places on earth. I love going there. I want to get in. You don't want to tell me?
Don't share the secret.
I think people know that, but
I know.
My hindrance with Bend is that it's freezing cold there. It's so freezing cold. Rachel actually had on a scarf when we started this.
I had my scarf on when I came in, but
I'm wearing a tank top to rub it in that I am in Orange County, and she moved away from me, and it's still summer here, and it's already starting to be freezing cold in winter in Bend. But I wanted to get into things a little bit lighter, because these are the things about you that intrigue me so much. And anyone knows that, like, your house, first of all, like your house, when I went to your house for the first time, your house was so perfect for you. And I thought it was so funny that you're like, all of your furniture fit in there like so perfectly in this little beautiful place. And really what I wanted to get into with you, and I think anyone that really knows you, your friends that know you, and what I love so much and wish, and these are the things that I've always wanted to ask you, like, how do you do this? First of all, you have this ability to, your house and every house you've lived in since I've known you has been the same way. It didn't matter if it was that rental in Orange that you barely even lived there for like not very long, like a few months. You have it, it's so perfectly decorated. You always have things like, so like they look like they were made to go where you have them. You have this ability to like put things where they go, like your pictures on the wall and things like that. How do you do that? How do you decorate your house so perfectly like that?
How do I answer that question? I don't know. I mean, I buy things that I love and that talk to me. So some people might walk in my house and feel like it's a little too quotey and too, I don't know, to like, as Dylan, as my son would say, one day he walked in and I had redone this wall and I loved it. And I'm like, Dylan, look at this wall. And he's like, yeah, it's a little feminine, Mom, is what he said to me. So my house is just me. Like, it's just who I am. I don't know. So I don't feel like I have that special gift. I'll see things like on Instagram or see other people's houses and I'm like, oh, I wish my house could look just like that. Oh, I wish I had that style. Oh, so it's funny hearing you say that. It feels good to hear you say that, but I guess I don't feel that that's a strength of mine. Like, I reach out to other people to get their opinions and ask on stuff like that.
Well, no, it's funny. And I don't want to skip over the fact that you've actually been divorced now since you've moved to Bend. So that's like another huge thing that's happened. Like, you just got divorced last year, right? That happened.
Yeah. What?
Well,
sorry, you kind of cut out. I didn't hear.
Well, no. So I was saying, like, so now you have a house where it is just you. And unfortunately, Dylan has to live with you. And you can have things more like the way that you want them, that are more, it is more feminine.
Yes.
But, here's how to sum up how you are in a nutshell. Because I remember when I was up in Bend, the first time I went up there, it was Christmas time and we went shopping and we came home and I had all these bags. Do you remember this? I had all these bags of all this different stuff that I bought and I was going to take a picture of it and I had set it out on your floor in the living room. And I was just I just threw it there and I was going to take a picture. And you're like, no way. And you just like, you fixed it up. And then in 2 seconds, you like fluffed it up and it looked, just like so beautiful. And that's just, you do that with tables, your parties. You're very good at entertaining. You're very good at laying things out and everything just has this really beautiful feel to it.
Well, thank you.
Well, anybody that would say that, I know because I've been with people who've been in your house for the first time and they're just, it's like, it's so beautiful. And it's not like it's a show house or something like that.
Right.
You get this it's like walking into your heart when you go in there. You can really get the sense.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So,
Yes.
and that's what it comes from my heart. So I don't really know how I do it. I just do it and it makes me feel good. And my personal space is so important to me. So I love to be able to walk into my house and just be like, and have my candles and have my favorite mugs that I love and have my quotes that I love and just all that stuff that fills me up. It's so important to me.
Yeah, candles. If somebody said Rachel, I would think candles. And I wish I had a picture. I don't have any of the pictures, but I wish I had the picture to show just recently when you moved out of your house, your one house, and you moved into your new place and you were doing the yard sale and all of the candles. Like, how many candle holders can one person have? It was so funny.
Yeah, and can you say shopaholic? That's a whole other interview,
That's a whole other show.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But at the same, this is the thing that I really want to talk to you about because, or I've always wanted to ask you, and I think I've kind of asked you, but I've never dug into it. And maybe it's not even something that you can articulate. But what I really love about you is that you are so good. I'm a total, I have a lot of sentimental accumulation. I mean, a lot. I have a lot. I was going to show you something. Like, I have a lot of stuff. And it's important to me, and I don't feel like it clutters up my life, but there is a point where I'm going to have to start, as I get older, I'm going to have to start offloading some things. But what I think is so neat about you is, first of all, your stuff, like all your stuff is always really fresh looking. Like, I can remember, and Mindy, if she sees this, Mindy was with us one time. You were here visiting and we were at the pool and we were admiring your little purse thing that you were carrying, and all your stuff, even though you don't have like $1 million or tons of money, your stuff is always it's always very clean and fresh. And you seem like you put there's a lot of intention behind everything that you have in your life. I feel like you're very intentional about what you allow in your life. Is that how you think of things?
Yes. Yes. I can't stand clutter, but I love things. And my friends, right, give me wonderful things and they mean so much to me. But yes, I am, I like things simple and clean and easy. And when I get too much going on, it's just too much for me. It's just too distracting. So you just described it perfectly. So yes.
Yeah,
and I think one way that, like, I mean, just recently I was moving and going through wedding stuff, going through my grandma's stuff, going through my mom's stuff. Like, it was a big deal and it was really, really hard. And I really had to think to myself, okay, what do you want to keep? And I got rid of so much stuff, but I kept the stuff that really meant something to me. And just one of them, not like, like my mom, there was a bunch of stuff in my mom's, and I'm like, you know what, just pick 3 things that mean a lot to you. So like, I kept her cheerleading sweater, I kept a baby toy, and I kept a card that was written, and then the rest, and there was a lot. I was like, throw in the dumpster. That night I went to bed like second guessing myself. And I actually the next day went back out and went through the dumpster. I kept one more thing, but overall I'm like, what am I going to do with this stuff? Like, what, I save it so then my kids have to deal with it, But yeah, I think just keeping things simple and clean, and it just makes life easier and better for me.
I love that. And I wanted to bring that up because when you told me that about when you were moving and about the things that you were able to let go of, I just love that because that, clutter is such a problem that everybody has of holding on to these things. And you've had these major things happen in your life where, you don't just have stacks of magazines or things like that. You have really things that are very sentimental and emotional things. And you were able to tell yourself, and that's what I wanted to ask you. Thank you for answering that, is that I wanted to know what you said to yourself, what your process was, what you used to be able to finally let that stuff go. And you shared that beautifully, that, and it's all just about being intentional too,
Yeah.
being aware, and drawing that boundary in your life about what you just went through this huge transition where you were divorced, and then you got to move in and like basically have a fresh start. So you were able to draw this boundary and really be very intentional about the things that you're wanting in your life. And I'm so much about that, because no one's going to do that for us. We have to be the people that decide, the people that we want in our lives, the thoughts that we're going to allow ourselves to think, the food that we're going to eat, everything. And you're so good about that. I learned that from you, just about being, no, this is the way that I want my life, and this is the way my life is going to be. And I've watched that unfold for you. And so this is a really good time to ask you about my questions that I want to ask, that I ask everybody. And my first question to you was, I wanted to ask you what your favorite book is. But when I asked you the question the other day, I was blown away by your answer. So can you give us your answer to my question?
Okay, well, I'll try to articulate it like I did with you. But I basically just said, first of all, I'm like a wannabe reader. So I'll go into a bookstore and I'll be like, oh, that looks great. Oh, that looks good. And I like the way the book looks. And I think, oh, that would look cute on my shelf. And
oh, that's your secret.
That color looks great. And so, but seriously, like I do look at books and think, oh, this would be amazing. And so I do have books, but the truth is I have a really hard time slowing down to read a book. I cannot, like, on a Saturday afternoon, sit down and read a book. I just can't do it. I'm like, I should be doing this. I want to go here. I want to see this person. So it's really hard for me to read. And the only time I read is when I go to bed and I read a page and I fall asleep. But really, the truth is I buy these books thinking that it's gonna, teach me something or fill up this part of me. And really, I get that from my experiences in life and the people that surround me and the people that I've been introduced to throughout my life. And I have learned so much through them. And my favorite thing in the world is to hear people's stories and and learn their life lessons. And you get these aha moments when you're like hearing about someone else's story and it resonates with you. And that's like that. People are my books. People are my books.
I love that.
But I am, and this is which is funny. I wasn't even really thinking about this, but it's funny now. So this book I'm reading right now, oh, it's probably backwards. Tiny Beautiful Things, Advice on Love and Life from Dear Sugar.
Oh.
My friend Amy recommended this to me like probably 2 years ago, and I bought it and it just sat and sat and sat and sat. And then I was traveling and I'm like, I'm just going to bring this with me because it's great, because they're a bunch of short stories about people's life. So it's so funny. Of course, I love this book, So I recommend the book. It's great. I mean, the first story that I read in there, I was like sitting on the airplane. It could not have matched what was going on in my life more accurately. Like, it was crazy. As a matter of fact, I text Amy because I was just like, this is unbelievable. So I am reading that book too. And then I also brought Love Warrior because I've had a couple friends tell me that they really feel like I should read this. And that's always intriguing to me because I'm like, well, what are you saying about my life? Why should I read this? So, but that's my answer.
Well, I love, that's what I love, because I'm a book person. Books are my oxygen. I started reading my first personal development book when I was 8 years old. And so that's what's made me so much of who I am today, is that. And so when I heard you say that the other day about people being your books, I was just really like, that is really such a really cool way to look at that, especially from people that may be intimidated or feel bad about themselves that they're not readers and they don't read, because everybody's different. And so I love that you know where you need to go to fill your cup up, and what gives you, what moves you and what inspires you to change. So that was a great answer. I love that. Okay, so my next question, I want to hear what if you have a song that inspires you, because I'm all about music. I use music every day to change my state or uplift me or pump me up or sometimes just mellow me out. So do you have a song or something that you like to listen to?
So I don't have a specific song, and I love music. I listen to music every day, but I am one of those people that drive music people crazy because I like certain songs. I don't know necessarily who the artist is or what the name of the song is, but it comes on the radio and I'm like, oh, I love this song. It's so great. Music can literally change my mood.
Yes.
Like it can literally change my mood. So I am listening to music all the time, but I love so like across the board country. I love like old, like the Temptations, I love the Lumineers. It's really across the board. My kids joke with me that I love depressing music, but I love it. And then like I just saw what's the movie I just saw, Vanessa? A Star is Born. A Star is Born.
I want to see
like that music, like I just like blared it in my house yesterday, and it makes me so happy. So I don't have one song, but music definitely impacts me and can change my mood if I need it to.
And I got that last night. I saw on your Instagram stories that you're listening to the A Star is Born soundtrack on Spotify. And so I'm like, I'm going to do that today because I cannot wait to see that movie. I didn't even know it was out already. And I know that is going to be, so did you like it? Was it a good movie?
It was a great movie. Very intense. Very intense. If you have alcoholics in your life and that's a trigger for you, I think you need to be aware of that going into the movie for sure. Amazing movie. Lady Gaga, I want to marry her. She is amazing. I mean, the two of them, yeah, it was great.
Yeah, there's a great documentary about her on Netflix too that is really neat. She has a chronic illness that she lives with too. So that is a really great show. And I want to say, hopefully I can get this on here before she leaves, but Amy McCann is here or was here. And she says, I'm going to put it up on the screen. It says, great job, Rach. That is cute. Yeah, Vanessa, great show. So I wanted to shout out to her because I know.
Love you, Amy.
I know. Now I'm going to start crying because I know that she's taken very good care of you. I basically feel like I passed her off. I passed you off to her, and she's taken really, really great care of you up there. And I know what an important person that she is. Thanks, Amy. Thanks, Amy, for making me ugly cry. I know how important that she is to you. And so I just wanted to acknowledge her. I didn't know she was on here before. I would have said something, but thank you so much, Amy, for stopping by and being here with us today. Okay, a couple more questions and then we're going to wrap this up.
Okay.
What's your favorite, where is your favorite place to be?
Oh, in the forest for sure. The trees, the wilderness. Oh, I just love it. It makes me happy just thinking about it. I just love it. Like put me out in the forest on a hike near water. Water's key for me. Water is so therapeutic for me. The funny thing is I don't like to be in water, but I love to be by any water, whether it's a pool, whether it's a lake, whether it's a stream, like it doesn't matter. So put me in the forest by running water and I am like, life is amazing.
I've never gotten to go to the forest with you because you weren't doing these sorts of things, I think, when I was up there, and it's been a long time. I owe you a trip to Bend. But you take the most beautiful pictures when you go out. You go out almost every weekend. You go hiking. You do these crazy, amazing hikes. You go camping, like in a tent. You go camping, like really camping. Like you put these pictures up, and I'm like, that's where you're gonna sleep. Where's your trailer? Like you're not glamping. You're really camping, and I love that about you. And I know how important that is to you. And that's such a big difference. Can you, like, where would that be?
You know what the number one question I get from my California friends when they see those pictures?
What?
Where do you put the bathroom?
Oh.
I've had to explain my bathroom stuff with so many people.
I do. I'm from the sticks, so I definitely know how to use the facilities if you can't find one. So we're going to skip over that. People can use it.
Okay. All right.
Okay. 2 more questions. Who or what inspires you?
Oh, my friends, 150%. I mean, my friends, the people in my life, they really do. They inspire me constantly and make me want to do things differently or be a better person or try something new. So yeah, hands down, my friends.
Well, I mean, you're like a pro at being a friend. You are, if there was a gold medal for friends, you would win it. And that, I think, is one of the biggest things that I learned from you, having you in my life, is that I learned how to be a friend. I learned how to be a real true friend to someone. I
Oh,
learned that by your actions and how you treated me and the things that you still do for me. You make me a better person because of that. And so that's just who you are. I know anybody that knows you knows what a just like what an amazing friend you are. And any like those of us that are in your life, I feel very lucky to be counted as one of your good friends, because you have a lot of really close people to you, and you're such a special person. So my last question for you is, what is one thing, like on a little, maybe a lighter note, what is one thing that you can't live without?
well, it's going to be the same answer. My friends.
Oh, like, so me, of course, I immediately go to some sort of food item, but not you.
No, I mean, honestly, I say this on a regular basis, and my friends know this. Like, I honestly would not be able to get through life without my friends. I mean, because so I'm the person, the reason why I say this is, some people hearing this, they might just think like, oh, not really think of it on a deeper level. But when something's going on in my life or I'm having a hard time, if I don't talk about it, it turns into something really bad. And I get sad and depressed, and I just like mentally not healthy. So I have safe, wonderful friends that I can share whatever with. And I have certain friends that I go to for certain things. And that keeps, it's like therapy, really. So I could not live without that. I would be a fucking mess if I did not have my friends. Seriously. But on a superficial level, what couldn't I live without? My caffeine, my mate in the morning, my special mugs, my candles, my fuzzy blankets. But really, like, my friends are what keep me going in life.
I should have known you were going to. I should have known that was going to be your answer. And I really just think that's a great testament. Like they say that saying, your vibe attracts your tribe. And I just think that that's a really good testament to the fact of the kind of person that you are, and that you have went up to Bend and you just knew like your sister, and maybe like one other person up there, and you have gone there. And how long have you lived there
now? 10. Wait, I moved here in 2010, so eight years.
You have such a beautiful community of friends and people up there. So I know you ended up landing where you were meant to be. And I'm so happy, and I look forward to all the things that are, all the great things that are still in store for you. And I just hope that you just, keep inspiring people, keep putting one foot in front of the other, keep taking me along on your journey with you. And I really want to thank you for being here with us today, for being brave and answering some really hard questions. We covered some really tough stuff that was like, we opened our hearts up. And I just want to thank you for that, Richie. So
thank you. And I just have to give a shout out to my beautiful, wonderful kids, because obviously I could not live without them. I have the most amazing kids. So I love you, Dylan and Corinne.
You do. And they're good looking too.
Thank you.
They're good looking kids too. All right, guys.
Thank you, Vanessa. This was an honor, and it's just so special to do this with you and to see you doing what you love and see you shine. And you have such a gift, and it's just, I'm so grateful to be a part of this. So thank you.
Right. Well, thank you. I appreciate you saying that, because I forgot, that you've been on this journey with me too. So the struggles that I've had, And, you know, I love being able to actually say honestly and truly that what I'm doing here, and I'm at the very beginning of it, is that I'm doing, you know, what I know that I am meant to do. And I don't really know what the end of the story is going to look like, but I just know that I'm doing what I've been called to do in life. And you've had to hear me, all my crazy ideas that I've had all these years that you've known me, that I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. At the core of it, it was always what I'm doing now, which is just inspiring people, hopefully. And you know, so thanks for being on that journey with me. And I love your feedback that I get from you. So we are going to close this down. Thank you, everybody that was here with us, watching us live. Thank you for the comments. And if you put any comments, Rachel or I will respond to them too. So thank you guys. Have a great Sunday. Thank you for being here. Rachel, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Have a good Sunday.